in, people. It's the first Saturday in November. Number 14, LSU is here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama to take on SEC rival Alabama since 1895. This is the 31st time in the story. I know, isn't that crazy? Storied rivalry that the teams have met as ranked opponents, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. We'll talk about that matchup, obviously, and a lot more, of course, for the next 30 minutes leading into game day, which is at the top of the hour. Welcome to Countdown to College Game Day, presented by Dr. Pepper. There's some interesting music being played right now.
Yeah, we're not. I can't hear you over this yeehaw.
It's a lot. I'm Christine Williamson. He's Lyles Jr. He's Harry Douglas. You know, we've been here in Tuscaloosa before. This isn't our first time this season, and I don't know, guys. How do you feel about the crowd?
It's okay right now.
Yeah.
You know, we had some early people amped up to be out here.
Yeah.
Some LSU fans right in the back. I went and told them, y'all are brave.
Right.
Being at the front and center of everything here in Tuscaloosa. So I'm vibing with them right now.
Yeah.
Couldn't be me. I'm roll tide today.
I will say, it might look like they're a little sparse, but this is a very mighty, loud crowd, so they're bringing a lot of energy this morning. It's great to see. All right, so we start every show with something that we call 3 big things. It's the things that we're either looking forward to this college football Saturday, either paying attention to, or something that happened early in the week. I'm going to let you start us off, Lyles. What do you got this week?
Hey, this is a get-right week for Mike Penix, your boy, right? Look, so he had a bad game against Arizona State. There's no way around it. It is concerning, to say the least, given what we saw out of this Washington team in September. They look like the best team in college football. He's gotten right somewhat 2 of the last 3 games. He recovered last week. The thing that concerns me with him is that completion percentage is still not what it needs to be. He's been hovering between 59 and 65%. When he won the September Heisman, which we hand out every year, basically right for the person that plays the best for the first 4 weeks of the season, he was up there at like 72%, which was like astronomical for him because he had been somewhere like 58 for his career. Going up against this USC defense, who has made everybody look like Tom Brady, like Joe Montana, like Patrick Mahomes. If Michael Penix and this Washington team are serious contenders, he is going to go out there. This has to be one of those games like we talked about early in the season with Bo Nix. Go out there and throw me 5 or 6 touchdowns. Go complete 68, 70% of your passes. So this is the week for them to get right.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see how that one goes down out there.
For me, it's November to remember, right? This is when a lot of players, particularly quarterbacks, make their mark and try to pursue a Heisman trophy and secure it. So I'm going to start with Jayden Daniels. He has a big game today versus Alabama, and that defense that's playing very, very well at the moment. Also, you look at Carson Beck. He's going against a Missouri team and a Brady Cook that has, played outstanding so far this year. So an opportunity for him with a big matchup versus Mizzou. I will go to Michael Penix Jr. as well, going against the USC Trojans and that defense, or the lack of defense that they've showed this season. And then Caleb Williams, who's going to be on the opposing team sideline. He has an opportunity today, too, to show up and show out. And lastly, I'm going to go with Dylan Gabriel. Going against the Oklahoma State Cowboys. He has an opportunity in Bedlam to make a mark. Didn't have a great game last week. Has an opportunity to make up for it this week.
Don't need it.
All right, we'll see what happens in that one. And I'm going to talk about a team that I talk about a lot, obviously, but I will also say that I didn't necessarily choose this topic because it is a really big deal.
Soccer.
I definitely didn't want to talk about Clemson this week.
Let's talk a little Clemson football. Obviously, Coach Swinney has been in the news this week because of some stuff that we'll talk a little bit later about in the show. However, Clemson football has not looked like Clemson football, to say the least, in the last few years, but this year they could be possibly having their worst season since 2010. That's the last time they finished with a losing record in 2010. The last time they didn't make it to a bowl game was in 2004. They're currently unranked. They had 6 CFP appearances in a row, and now they haven't been there since 2020, obviously not going this season. Lyles, you're laughing about something. What the heck is going down?
Did you write this on the screen? Clemson could use a hug. That's either everybody working behind the scenes knows.
Clemson fans could use a hug.
That was our boy Cologne. I mean, hey, man.
No, they really could, because it's been rough out there. It's been really rough. And I was at that Clemson-Miami game, and even though either team could win, that was a rough game for Clemson.
Why were you at the Clemson-Miami game?
Shut up. Anyways, we like to talk about the top team or the top games every single week. We're going to do something a little bit different this week, and we're going to play a game while we talk about the teams called Upset Watch. We have this lovely,
clock. We bring them out.
Clock. Yeah, I was like, what is that? I was like, is that a watch? Thank you.
Come on, Christine.
This is made by Courtney Andrews because she's goated.
That's right. Marshall's very own.
So we're going to talk about what teams we feel like that are undefeated and that have CFP hopes, I should say, and could possibly take a big fat L today. We're going to start with the game that's happening here. A top 15 matchup between LSU and Alabama. We'll start with Alabama because obviously LSU, we were here the last time Alabama played Texas and took a big L. So what do you think, HD? How much should Bama be on upset alert?
I'm going to put them at a 10 p.m. that is, right, to be on upset alert. And here's why. When you look at LSU, you look at the quarterback position, Jayden Daniels. You look at the matchup in 2022, he was able to do it with his legs, being a dual threat quarterback, and then he also did it with his arm. He has an opportunity today to really, secure some things in the bag. Number one, LSU beat Alabama for 2 years in a row. Also, he can move up in the rankings when it comes to the Heisman. But this is a young man that I think is playing the best at the quarterback position more so than anybody. And he also has two valuable weapons, two at the wide receiver position. Malik Neighbors, second in college football right now in receiving yards with 9 touchdowns. And then Brian Thomas Jr., he's not a stranger to the end zone. He's tied for the most touchdown receptions right now with 11. Over 1,700 yards and 20 touchdowns between the two wide receivers. But the most important thing that Jayden Daniels did last year in that matchup was take care of the football. He has to take care of the football today, and it probably will be an upset over Alabama.
Malik Neighbors, man, that boy bad.
Yes, he is.
You know what I'm talking about?
That boy bad.
So look, first off, I don't know how to read an analog clock. They didn't teach us that at Georgia State.
It's very simple.
No, it's not.
We're only doing 12 hours.
I'm kidding, America.
I know.
Thank you. I'm going to go, let's go 8, okay? I feel, and let's see if we get this thing to stick.
I believe in you.
Thank you for moving the clock for me, brother. So look, with Alabama, the key to this game truly, you pointed out, is Jayden Daniels. He has been the best player in college football the last 5 weeks, and it's really not even close. Not just what he's done through the air, but on the ground. A lot of the questions with this Alabama team revolve around this offense. It hasn't been what we've been used to, right? When you think of great Alabama teams, they've evolved over the years with, going from quarterbacks that people thought were lesser, like our colleague Greg McElroy, which that is not fair. That man won a national championship. A.J. McCarron, others, and now they were chugging out Heisman Trophy winners. This year we've got Jalen Milroe. I feel like he was sort of a victim of their schedule because they played Texas in week 2. He didn't really have game reps, and so this offense has gotten off to a slow start. They're still averaging 30 points a game, which in 6 yards per play, which is pretty dang good. That's solid. If you were most teams in college football, you would take that. But because this is Alabama and they're being just good and not great, we look at this team with major concerns. So to me, the thing that makes the difference here is their experience, their big game experience. Are they going to be able to play enough defense? Are they going to be able to run the football to be able to come out with this victory? I am still not at the point, HD, even though my heart is telling me that you are correct and that LSU is looking good in this game. I still got to take Alabama. That's why I'm a little bit lower than you are on the scale. But I am concerned, which is why I'm still at an 8.
Okay. Let's go out to the Pac-12. We talked about this matchup a little bit. Washington at USC. Now, Washington is going to hold. This is a matchup of two teams that are at the top of the Pac-12 standings. Obviously, both of them trying to win the Pac-12 conference, but both have struggled lately. We know that the Huskies obviously have a very explosive offense. Lyles, you were talking about it earlier, and the fact that they're probably going to put up a lot of points against this USC team.
Yes.
How much is Washington on upset alert?
Oh, man. I've really struggled with this one because I feel like it could be a 12, and I also feel like it could be a 1. I'm going to go a 6. Okay? And look, I know how to tell time.
Good job.
So here's my thing with this game. We talked about Michael Penix earlier. The dangerous part about this football game for Washington is USC is just so all over the place. You just don't know how it's going to go because they have allowed teams to just absolutely dominate them because on defense, what is a worse metaphor than they can't stop a nosebleed? Because whatever it is, that's what this defense is, right? They have averaged, I believe, 41 points in their 2 losses given up on defense, but they've also won 2 games having given up more than 40 points. So if Michael Penix does go out here and throws for 5 touchdowns, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win the football game because USC could give it right back to them. If they do get into a shootout, the thing about this Washington defense, they have not been very disruptive. When you give a quarterback like Caleb Williams time, which he has shown, one of the things that makes him great and people compare him to Patrick Mahomes is he doesn't need that time. So if Washington is not disruptive defensively, then we get into a shootout and we go from a 6 to a 12.
So for me, I'm going to put this game at an 8:30. I'm going to go 8:30.
8:30.
Wow, 8:30.
Very specific.
I believe that the USC Trojans could upset the Washington Huskies, and it's because of Caleb Williams, right? Yes, that offense has been sporadic. That defense has been non-existent the entire year. But I look at a few things. You look at Caleb Williams last year, in 14 games, he was sacked 30 times. In 9 games so far this season, he's been sacked 24 times. Also, we got to remember, when you win a Heisman Trophy, coming into that next season, it's rough, man. The expectations are high. Not saying that Caleb Williams can't handle that, but you go into every game expecting to be special. And Caleb Williams has had to be special because of that defense. So every time the offense is going on the football field, they feel like they have to score, and they have to have explosive plays to get into the end zone because of that defense. But I will say this is going to be a back and forth affair today, and whoever has the football last, I think is going to win.
All right. We'll see what happens in that matchup. Let's head over to the SEC and the defending champs, Georgia. Playing Missouri, who a lot of people are saying could be a trip-up game for this team. Obviously, Georgia now number 2 in the CFP standings or rankings, so very interesting to see that. Missouri is hoping to end Georgia's 25-game win streak, and the last time that Mizzou was 7-1, which is what they are right now, they upset the number 7 Bulldogs in Athens, which is in 2013. So, HD, how nervous should Georgia be right now?
I'm going to go 6 o'clock. We're just going to lean it right there. I'm going to go 6 o'clock, and it's because of the explosive offense of the Missouri Tigers. Their head coach was relieved of the play call duties. They allowed someone else to come in and do that. It's been very beneficial for their team this season. Brady Cook is playing outstanding. Completion percentage is through the roof, taking care of the football. But Luther Burden III has been amazing. 5th in receiving yards right now in college football. Also, Theo Weiss, who came over from Oklahoma, a transfer. Their running back, Strader, has been phenomenal. So the big playability of Missouri has me looking at Georgia and saying this is a 6 o'clock type deal for them to be upset today. They have to watch out because this team can score in bunches and they search for the big play.
Shout out Greg Street. 6 o'clock. If you're from Atlanta, represent. Look, I'm gonna go. Let's go 3. Let's go 3 o'clock. Okay. And here's my reasoning for that. I am slightly uncomfortable for Georgia because of all the reasons you mentioned with this Missouri offense, because they can force you to get into a track meet. This offense has been on. We saw it how they did it against LSU, right? Like they honestly probably should have won that football game. The reason I am not concerned with Georgia is it has similar notes to Alabama. Because they've been good and not great, we look at them and be like, what is wrong with this football team? When in reality, is that an issue? Yes. Georgia has always sometimes played down to their competition, which, and I highly recommend, I've referenced this, I think, a couple of weeks ago on the show, Bill Connolly's previews for every week. He goes through S&P Plus, which it's a big old formula, and it is a predictive system. Georgia, this season, has always performed under expectation when they play the lesser teams, and they have played above expectation when they play the better teams. You saw it last week, right? The question was, what are they going to do without Brock Bowers? Well, Ladd McConkey, that boy bad, was back. He had 6 catches, 135 yards, and Carson Beck has looked better every single week that we've seen him. Again, those game reps go a very long way. They ran the football well last week as well, and this defense, they still got some dogs on there. No pun intended, but like they still got that thing going. So Carson Beck has been effective this year. 2,500 yards. He's completing like 72% of his passes, 14 touchdowns, just 4 picks. This Georgia team's going to be okay. This is going to be one of those games because they see that 12 next to Missouri's name. They're going to be like, all right, let's tighten up. Let's go out here and play a football game. You saw it last week against Florida. You're really going to see it, I think, today against Missouri.
All right. Let's go over to the Big 12 because things at the top of the Big 12 are very interesting. It's a little bit of a logjam. There are 5 teams currently at the top, but that should thin out a lot today because the teams have to play one another. Let's start with Kansas State taking on Texas. Obviously, Texas still without Quinn Ewers. Kansas State just completely trounced TCU and Houston by a combined score of 82-3. So they're going to go to Texas. Like I mentioned, they don't have Quinn Ewers. Harry Lyles, what do you think about this matchup? Should Texas be on upset alert?
Yes. I am not necessarily as high on Kansas State upsetting Texas as other people are, because you beat Houston, yes. You beat TCU, yes. Those teams are not what we thought they were. I'm gonna put this one as a 6-2. We'll leave that down there with Georgia. My thing with this game, 2 factors. If they're able to not turn the football over, they beat Kansas State, and if they continue to run the football very well, they're going to have a chance, because they are going to put Malik Murphy probably in a situation that he was not in last week against the BYU defense that is one of the worst in FBS, where he's going to actually have to make plays. Obviously, Jonathan Brooks are still going to be able to run the football really well. That's a very athletic defense. They're one of the most talented teams in the country, but Kansas State, it's a team that won the Big 12 last year. We know they could put it together. They're still very talented, very well coached. So I'm going to put it at a 6, because I do think that they're going to make Malik Murphy make plays today.
All right. We're going to the next game.
Oh, you don't have that one? Okay. Let's go to Oklahoma State. It is the final bedlam. People are so overdramatic. Obviously, Oklahoma no longer in the in the Big 12 after next season, moving over to the SEC. How much of upset watch should they be on for their second loss in the row? Obviously, losing last week to Kansas.
I'm going to give Oklahoma. I'm going to put them at 7 o'clock. And I think last week against Kansas, they really struggled stopping the run. Kansas rushed for over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns. Well, newsflash: Oklahoma State has the second best rusher in the country in Ollie Gordon. So if you can't stop the run, it's going to be a long day for Oklahoma.
Yeah. All right. We'll see how that goes over in the Big 12, because like I said, a lot of things spinning up at the top of the standings. Time now for Fansville Advantage, presented by Dr. Pepper. We're going to look ahead to next week to see who has the advantage in next week's matchup. We're going to go Big 10. Michigan headed to State College to take on Penn State. Another big moment for Drew Aller. Do you think the Penn State crowd can help the Nittany Lions overcome Michigan after they faltered versus Ohio State?
Hey, let me tell you something. What we saw out of that Penn State team against Ohio State, that did not have me feeling very confident about their prospects moving forward this season. Obviously, we've been to Happy Valley. It's a rocking place, especially when they do the wideout. I do not feel that it's going to be enough to help them overcome Michigan. And honestly, I feel like Michigan is going to be playing with a little bit more of an edge with all the sign-stealing stuff going on. We saw how they took the Harbaugh stuff. So personally, I think you're going to see that again next week. I'm sorry for holding that Alabama A. You were trying to give it to some fans. That makes sense. This is seemingly the first big test for Michigan. Do you think that they'll be exposed at all? I really don't, because I really, truly do not mean this as any offense to Penn State. I just don't view this one yet as a big test either. Okay. Because again, like I feel like, what did we see out of Penn State against an Ohio State that made you think like, okay, like they're really going to put J.J. McCarthy to the test? Because I feel like this Michigan team is more well put together and built to, I think, really not necessarily run up the score, but make things tougher on this Penn State football team. They never really applied pressure to Ohio State, and Ohio State never really put their backs against the wall. Michigan, I still think, even though they haven't played anybody, is one of the best teams in the country, and I think that they are going to prove that against Penn State. All right, we'll see what happens. That, of course, is next week. There's a big matchup here this week, but first, HD is with our cheesiest fan.
Are you cheesy?
I am cheesy.
How cheesy?
Super cheesy.
How much do you love Cheez-Its?
I love cheesy.
How much?
A lot.
How much?
A lot.
How much again?
A lot.
That's what I'm talking about, baby. It is now time to honor the cheesiest fan with the cheesiest chain. Reserved for college football, most passionate fan, the ones who show up on Saturdays feeling the cheesiest. I am now here with Jaycelyn. What time did you get out here this morning?
I got here at 1 a.m.
1 a.m.? Wow. Did you sleep overnight?
Yes.
Okay, had a great time. Alabama, LSU, one of the biggest rivalries in college football. How do you think it's going to go today?
I'm really nervous, honestly, but I think Alabama's going to pull through. I think it's going to be a close game. Probably, I'm thinking 30-27 is my score.
Now, I will say this. The Alabama Crimson Tide, this football team needs the crowd today.
Yeah.
More so than it did against Texas.
Right, for
You're going to be louder today?
Oh, yeah.
All of y'all going to be louder today? Okay, I think they're ready. So, you have won a replica chain just like mine for being the cheesiest fan. High five.
Thank you.
Give me a roll tide out loud.
Roll Tide!
Roll Tide, says Jaycelyn. Christine, back to you.
like field corn, as opposed to being a houseplant. And nothing against houseplants. They have their function. They can be beautiful in the home. They can bring great beauty and value to a home. But the field corn, just drop a seed in a crack of a sidewalk and it'll burrow down and come up with any energy that it can find, and then rise up in a stalk-like fashion and just start producing. I'd say that's what our team's more like.
All right, unsure what Coach Harbaugh was exactly talking about when it comes to. I know a lot about corn, as we know, but I still have no idea what Coach Harbaugh was talking about.
Hi, Dean.
So we're going to do a little thing called They Said It, where we look at some of the other things that coaches have said this week, and maybe it confused us a little bit, or just like really good sound. We're going to start with Coach Prime after their loss to UCLA.
The line has to improve. It ain't no aspect. The line has to improve. The big picture, you go get new linemen. That's the picture, and I'm going to paint it perfectly.
All right, HC, what do you make of his assessment?
I'll be honest with you. Because Coach Prime has the pedigree, he's been there and done it, he's keeping it real with those young men. And I'll be honest, being a former player and playing football for 10 years in the National Football League, these athletes, if they want to be great, they love realness. They love when coaches are real with them. When you look at this offensive line of Colorado, they're allowing 5 sacks per game right now. 7 against the UCLA Bruins. Shedeur Sanders had to get a shot at the halftime just to numb out some of the pain that he had from taking those sacks. He's keeping it real with his players. I respect it 100%.
And you know, one of the big criticisms of him has been like, you can't talk to your guys like that and expect them to stick around. HC, I'm sure he's not saying anything to the cameras and in the media that he's not saying in the locker room.
Right.
Right? Like, I don't think that I understand where people are coming from with that. I really do, and I do think that there is a lot of legitimacy to that. But I also don't think that Coach Prime is so backwards that he wouldn't have already probably said that to their faces behind closed doors.
1,000%. We saw him do that when he literally arrived in Colorado. Like, get your butt out of here if you don't want to be here. All right, let's go to another coach that I mentioned that we would talk about at the beginning of the show, because Coach Swinney went on like a 5-minute rant.
Yeah, boy.
To Tyler from Spartanburg. Take a listen.
Because that is part of the problem. It's people like you that all you do is the appreciation, the expectation is greater than the appreciation. You know, we've won 12 10-plus win seasons in a row. That's happened 3 times in 150 years. Clemson ain't sniffed a national championship for 35 years. We've won 2 in 7 years. Is this a bad year? Yeah. And it's my responsibility. Take 100% responsibility for it. But all this bull crap you're thinking, all these narratives you read, listen, man, you can have your opinion all you want, and you can apply for the job. And good luck to you.
I mean, Tyler from Spartanburg, you can apply for the job. I mean, that would be very interesting. When Coach Swinney got there, he wasn't, necessarily qualified. Anyways, Lyles, what do you think?
Look, so, he's not wrong in a lot of what he's talking about, but, bro, you created this.
Right.
Like this is a product of these, and honestly, you should view it as a compliment to the things that you have accomplished. But to go out here and give your resume to some random dude on the radio, dude, you got to have a little bit more composure than that. I mean, again, I get where Dabo's coming from. But, man, it feels like he has just been backpedaling all year. And I think, at some point, you've got to look inward. Why are you 4-4?
Yep.
Is it because you don't want to adapt to the current landscape of college football?
Yeah.
Because to me, again, for as much talking as we have done all year, obviously, about Michigan and the sign-stealing scandal, that is a big deal.
Right.
To me, one of the tragic things that we are watching is a man that has built a dynasty at a school that really probably never thought that they were going to see something like that happen, and he's going to let it wither away because he thinks he's doing things the right way.
Yeah, for
Bro,
sure.
I'll tell you this really bothered me to my core, and I thought it was BS by Dabo Swinney, because when you win 2 national championships, see, now the standard has changed.
Yeah.
And once the standard is national championship, college football playoffs, year in and year out, that's what it is. It's not compromised for anyone. But to tell a fan that you're part of the problem and you're the reason, that blew me away. Yeah. And I didn't think that was a good look for Dabo Swinney at all. your job as a head coach is to have your team ready to play every single game.
Yep.
You look at last year, they didn't make they won the ACC championship game. The year before, they didn't even make it. They're not going to make it this year. So one time in the last 3 years, you played for an ACC championship without a college football semifinals or playoff bid.
Yeah.
So that's on you, coach. That's on you and your guys. The standard is the standard. It won't be compromised for nobody else. This is what you created there. So I didn't think that was a good look for Dabo at all.
Yeah, and they're also, as I mentioned earlier in the show, in danger of missing a bowl game. They need 2 more wins in order to do that. So we'll see if they're able to. Let's talk about this matchup a little bit more. LSU here in Tuscaloosa. Take a listen to this.
Alabama and LSU face off as ranked opponents.
They know when they're watching a game, this game means a lot.
It's a privilege to play in these games. That's why you sign up to go to LSU or Alabama.
I think it's going to be electric. Our crowd is going to bring it and show that we have one of the best crowds in the country.
Hopefully it's crazy. I'm looking to make some fans very sad Saturday night, so I wanted to be jumping.
For the win! It's good! LSU does it!
Last year we came up short, but this year we're looking to get a little get back.
LSU-Alabama, it's a brewing rivalry for a reason.
The SEC West on the line, it just means more.
When you see a quality game like this with quality players, that's why it's a must-see on TV.
Hey.
And they start playing No Hands with Dez come out.
Desmond Howard in the building. This is my.
Right?
Are you a Jeezy fan? We're so excited to have you.
Excited to be here.
This is a good game. This is the second time in Tuscaloosa this season. How do you feel about coming to Tuscaloosa? Obviously, the big matchup between LSU and Alabama today. What are you expecting?
Well, you know the crowd sucks. You know what I mean? So I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Happy to see the kids out here today. Second time here. The first time Texas game didn't fare well for Alabama. Obviously, Jalen Milroe didn't play well. He got benched, but then he fought, stayed true to himself. Starter now. Found himself a target. Jermaine Burton from Georgia, the transfer wideout, is now his go-to target. This is going to be his biggest test, though. Since the Texas game, you know, they've been playing well. They've been winning games, but this is the test right now. Going up against LSU. It's a test not because of LSU's defense, but because of LSU's offense. LSU's offense puts pressure on other teams' offenses to score a lot of points.
Yeah.
So this is going to be really intriguing. I can't wait for this matchup tonight, too. Night game in Tuscaloosa, sign me up, baby. Let's go.
So obviously, Alabama has won 6 in a row. They haven't allowed more than 21 points per game since then, right? In those last 6 games. But LSU, as you mentioned, has a high-powered offense. They're over 47 points on average this season. So how do they slow down Jayden Daniels in that offense?
Well, listen, I'm going to ask my man Harry a question, too. But I'm going to answer that question. I was at Alabama's practice, right? And I'm talking to a couple of defensive coaches. And everyone understands that Jayden Daniels right now, the quarterback at LSU, is playing at a Heisman-type level. Like, he really is. And he's making great decisions with the ball. And he's breaking contain. And that's when he's most dangerous because he is a very elusive runner, but he's still a very accurate passer once he get out the pocket. So, defensively, they're going to have to just contain him, keep him in the pocket, corral him, don't let him get out there on the perimeter. But I want to ask you a question about the receivers. When you look at Malik Neighbors, you look at Brian Thomas Jr., what do you see from those two? I think for both of those guys, it's the versatility, right? And the ability to be able to not only make catches, but score touchdowns. And that's hard to do, right? We know a lot of guys across college football, the National Football League, that can catch the football, but can't get it in the end zone. Because that's less plays now that you have to run to be able to get it in the end zone. So that's what I love between those two guys. Malik Neighbors, you're going to see him move all over the place. He can play inside, outside, but that Alabama's secondary is what I'm keying on. Kool-Aid McKinstry is going to have to be the first-round draft pick that he's expected to be. It's going to have to be Malachi Moore, who's guarding a slot guy that's got to be phenomenal. Freshman Caleb Downs. He can't have a subpar game like he had against Texas. That's right. It's going to be big today. And we can't forget Mason Taylor, right? Jason Taylor's son at the tight end. He's the one who caught that 2-point conversion for a touchdown last year. So all of those guys, but you said it, contained. If Chris Braswell and Dallas Turner, those two guys got to show up big for Alabama. 100%,
Now, Des, you mentioned earlier, last time we were here, we saw these guys play Texas. Texas has Kansas State today. How much trouble do you feel like they might be in today, and could that take them out of the playoff race?
You know, I was thinking
thinking about that. I was looking at that matchup, and, Kansas State, they're going to run the ball.
Yeah.
They're very, very physical up front. They're going to try to play ball control offense. But the last time we was here, the thing that blew us away about Texas was how they pushed around Alabama up front. They controlled the trenches. I know you talk about guys like Xavier Worthy. You talk about, Ewers, what he did when they played here. He was phenomenal. But it all started up front. So because of that, I still think that the Longhorns in the trenches will control the line of scrimmage. And I think ultimately that's going to wear on Kansas State. But it's going to be a really good matchup.
So I want to stay in the Big 12. We got Bedlam, right, for the last time. Oklahoma State.
Yeah.
Oklahoma coming off that loss to Kansas. Do you think they will be able to, get back on track, get a win today, and do it in a convincing way?
Hey, listen, man, we both play football. We understand that once a team wins the game, but it's an ugly win, normally it gives that coaching staff the type of motivation they need to come after their kids. Listen, we're going to have to tighten things up. That was a close game. We should have really blew this team out the waters, and now let's start to correct our mistakes. It seemed like they didn't correct the mistakes from the UCF game. Yeah. They went out there and they had another ugly game against Kansas, but Kansas is better than UCF, so they won the game. So I'm just really curious to see now, after back-to-back performances that were kind of lackluster to say the least, I want to see if they're going to bounce back and play the way we expect the Sooners to play.
Yeah, for sure. Things have been very interesting in the Big 12 Conference. Desmond Howard.
All right.
It's great having you.
Come on, my favorite three. Come on, baby.
This kind of music, like country music, are you a fan?
You know what? I had to do an MVP, and it really just blew my high because I was listening to Jeezy earlier, so you can't go to Jeezy and come out here to this. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. Yeah.
All right, guys, as we know, we have a big one here in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. LSU obviously in town for a game that has huge playoff implications. We're going to choose our team right now, and I feel like HD is very prepared. Who we think is winning this matchup? I'm going to start with you, HD, because you look, like I mentioned, very prepared for this.
For me, I'm going with LSU because of Jayden Daniels. I think he's going to have a big game tonight, and he's going to be able to secure the top spot when it comes to the Heisman race today. Jayden Daniels going to ball out, get the ball through his weapons, but he's going to show up and show out just like he did last year and beat the Crimson Tide.
Man, where'd my little A go, man? I need the prop, man. Where's my A? Look, as much as I believe that
Courtney in the clutch.
if you feel correct, again, I'm not at the point where I'm ready to pick against Alabama. I'm going with the Tide, right? I'm going with the Tide.
All right,
I'm going with the Tide.
55% of fans say that LSU is going to win. I also am saying that LSU is going to win for personal reasons. And that is where we will leave it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for watching Countdown to College GameDay presented by Dr. Pepper. We had so much fun out here in Tuscaloosa. Don't know where we'll be next week, but we'll see you then.
Good stuff.